Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome to another episode of not the Steelers Fix and not the Draft Dynasty podcast. This is a special episode of some NFL draft rumors and buzz here separately on our own separate live stream today. My name is Andrew Wilbar of the Fans First Sports Network and Steel Curtain Network. Pleased to be joined by Corey Eckenroth, also of the Steel Curtain Network. Corey, you are on your way to the Steel Curtain Network draft party in Hagerstown, Maryland. If you want to give a little bit of insight onto that, if anyone watching is in the area and wants to give some insight on that.
Oh, man, for the next two nights, starting today and tomorrow at about 7:30, 8 o'clock for the draft, we are going to be there live. Jeff Hartman's going to be there. Dave Schofield's going to be there. Brian Anthony Davis is in Pittsburgh tonight, but he's going to be at that draft party tomorrow night. We're going to have a lot of good food at Dugout Sports Bar, Viva's on Potomac. We're also going to be giving away a lot of prizes, including a Joey Porter Jr. signed mini helmet and a TJ Watt signed jersey. So if you can make it, please get out, show your face, come say hello.
There you go. Definitely make sure you do that. Also with me today is my cousin Nathan Cook, diehard Steelers fan, back in my home state of Michigan. Nathan, how's it going?
Oh, pretty good.
Going well. We've got a lot to talk about here, and the topic of what I want to discuss, this is just going to be a very casual, just for fun conversation. Those of you that are watching or happen to be in the live chat and you want to put something in here, feel free to put something in the live chat. We'd be happy to have any of you chime in. If you have any draft questions, anything about that tonight, let us know. We'd be happy to answer them. We're going to be talking about some NFL draft rumors and some buzz that is surrounding league circles right now. And obviously, this is always a crazy 24 hours when you have betting odds changing and different things like that. And everyone tries to read into everything. We all know that Fernando Mendoza is going number one overall. After that is where it gets a little unsure. Number two, we know it's going to be one of the edge rushers, Corey. We know it's either going to be Arvell Reese or David Bailey. Do you have a gut feeling one way or the other as we're just a couple hours away from the draft?
I'm still trying to decide if the Jets were trying to throw a smokescreen out there by not having David Bailey come in for the official visit. They basically turned it down and shut it down before he could get there. So was that the Jets saying, we know we want you? Was it the Jets saying, I think we know we're taking Arvell Reese instead? I'm not sure. I'm going to be honest with you. If it were me making the pick for the Jets, man, I'm taking David Bailey. I think he's got a lot of upside. Arvell Reese is a good player. He's going to be a good player. David Bailey's probably more ready to play now at that inside linebacker position.
I would tend to agree with that based on the fact that they've got to win now, right? Aaron Glenn does not have forever. He's got to produce immediately. And Arvell Reese is a little bit more of a project, even though he is my number one player on the board. I think for their situation, it makes more sense to go in that direction. Nathan, do you have a favorite as between Bailey and Reese?
Personally, I think it's Bailey, but it's hard to tell.
It's stylistically, obviously, a lot matters. Obviously, Reese, with the year that he had this past season at Ohio State, it kind of stalled partway through the season in terms of production.
Yeah.
I mean, the talent is undeniable, and the Micah Parsons comparisons makes a lot of sense. I think where it really gets interesting, though, is number three. We know at least the direction that New York is going at 2. 3 is anyone's guess. This is where the rumors really start to get going, because we got a little bit of a wild rumor today that was by our own one of our own editors at Steel Curtain Network, brought to our attention through a source that he had, that there is a growing curiosity that the New Orleans Saints, if you check out the mock draft, make sure you check out my mock draft at steelcurtainnetwork.com. I had the New Orleans Saints trading up to 4 with Tennessee. I still think that's a possibility. I had them trading up for Arvell Reese. There's a growing curiosity around the Saints moving up, and I do not understand this at all. Moving up for Jeremiyah Love to number 3 overall. If you want to talk about shaking the draft completely out of order, Nathan, I'll start with you. I know that you've got some family, you got some roots in Louisiana. They already brought in Travis Etienne. We know what the type of player Jeremiyah Love is, but is there any scenario in which this would make sense for you as a guy looking at the Saints, a team that needs pass rusher, a team that needs all these things? Do you find any scenario where they would actually want to bring in a guy like this?
No. I mean, they have they've already mentioned they don't want to get rid of Alvin Kamara. They want to try to make it work with both of them. And a third running back just doesn't make sense.
I would agree with that. Corey, is this just a bunch of smoke? Like, is there any way this actually happens?
I do like the idea of giving Tyler Shuff a complimentary back like that, but I got to agree with both of you. If Kamara's still there and they bring in Etienne, it's probably going to be backfield by committee, and therefore it doesn't make any sense to bring in Love unless you think that you're going to end up getting rid of both of them or at least one of them before camp even starts. And I wouldn't see the reason in signing Etienne if that's going to be the case.
When you look at what they've been doing on the defensive side of the ball and what they need, that front defensive line is getting old. I mean, you think of, obviously Cam Jordan's been a rock forever, but the last time that they really gave any attention to pass rusher in a draft early on, they had a couple busts, and then you had Marcus Davenport. They've not been able to hit really on any of the guys that they've gone after early on in the draft. And this is an opportunity for them to me, if you're trading up, I'm trading up for whoever's there between Bailey and Reese. And I think it makes sense for them. But where they're at, getting that premier player on the defensive side, I think that's a good trade up at the right price. If you can move up to 3 or 4, I think it's worthwhile. Is there anybody else that New Orleans is trading up here for? Either of you can chime in here. Is there another player? Am I missing something here that you would actually trade up for? Because if not, why not just stay at pick 8 and take Carnell Tate if he's there, or whatever the best receiver is, Jordyn Tyson, if he happens to fall? What are we doing?
I'm going to be honest in saying I think they ought to just stay put where they're at and take Mansour Delane, take the hometown kid.
Nathan, your thoughts?
Personally, I think it's Jordyn Tyson. I don't know. With his injuries, it's hard to say where he goes, but I just would love to see a world where Chris Olave and Jordyn Tyson are on the same team.
Yeah.
You talk about two guys that can run really crisp routes. You're talking about two really best route runners.
Plus those two running backs as well. That would be a pretty good offense.
Would be. They've addressed the offensive line year after year after year. I don't think that's something that they're addressing there. So that's why there's too many needs that this team has to where you can afford to not just draft Love, but actually trade up to get him and trade assets away. It doesn't make sense. The Saints could be in position to win in a year or two from now, but they're not there yet. So I think there's better things they can do for this football team than to get Jeremiyah Love, especially after you get the biggest thing is that because it's number 3 overall, it's a fully guaranteed contract, and you're already paying him an insane amount of money because it's a running back, it doesn't change the amount that he's going to be making on that first contract. So he's already going to be one of the 12 highest paid running backs to start off his career on his rookie contract.
That's a tough one, especially because how running backs are so devalued around the league these days. That it almost makes sense that if you're going to sit on a fully guaranteed contract, then you better go after a premium position like quarterback, like edge rusher, like offensive tackle, because those are the buku bucks guys, and you wouldn't want to, like you said, Andrew, waste it on a running back that has tons of potential but hasn't yet proven himself.
Let's move on to get to a couple other picks here. We can circle back to that one because I think it's an interesting story, maybe the most interesting storyline of this draft. Tennessee at 4. Again, in my mock draft, I had them moving back with New Orleans. New Orleans moves up for the pass rusher. If you're Tennessee, and I guess we could throw Arizona in here as well because we were talking primarily about New Orleans from the Arizona perspective. Are you taking Love at 3?
No.
I think if Arizona sticks, that's probably who they're taking because they need playmakers everywhere right now.
Yeah, I think I'm never a proponent for taking a running back that high, but if you're talking about a team that just wants to maybe exponentiate their rebuilding process to where once they do get their quarterback, there's a lot of rumors talking about them maybe moving into the back end of the first for Ty Simpson. So if that comes to fruition, you got that running back and quarterback combo, then they can kind of grow together as rookies. But beyond that, the value does not present itself that high, especially with the amount of money you got to pay a running back with that high of a pick. To me, it just doesn't make sense on any aspect. But Tennessee at 4 is also interesting because if Love isn't there, I think it opens up a lot of opportunities because Tennessee is one of those teams that's like, okay, you just got to get weapons. You got to get them for Cam Ward here. But we also know how much Robert Saleh likes pass rushers. So Nathan, if you have the option between one of the two pass rushers, assuming they stay put, let's say they stay put at 4, between the two pass rushers, even though they added a couple in free agency, so it's not necessarily a dire need, do you go with whatever pass rusher is left between Reese and Bailey? Do you take Love if he happens to fall there? Or do you reach a little bit for a Carnell Tate who might be not the greatest value at 4, but you know what you're getting in him, and you know you're going to get a day one starter, a guy who can immediately come in and be a help to Cam Ward?
Probably Jordyn Love. I mean, I'm Jordyn Love. I'm sorry, Jeremiyah Love.
Yeah, we don't have any blockbuster trade coming here.
There's going to be a trade.
It's not on the trade block.
No, they just have an insane history of running backs. They don't necessarily. I mean, they kind of have one already, but I don't know. Just growing up, when I started becoming a football fan, and everything, I saw Derrick Henry, with the Titans. They've always been a running back kind of team, but I think that's what they'll do.
Running back does play into their identity as Tennessee. I mean, for years. I mean, you can even go back to when they, even through veterans, when they were kind of circling through veterans before Derrick Henry, when they brought in, DeMarco Murray. Like, they're always up for that high-profile type guy. So it would make sense. I think Sonny Styles is an intriguing name here. If he happens to be still available, I think he will be. I think this is probably the ceiling for him. I don't think Arizona takes him at 3, and I don't think Dallas moves up to 3 to get him. So I would imagine that's the pick there. Corey, you have any other thoughts on Tennessee?
I think that if Jeremiyah Love is there, that would probably be the sexiest pick, although it still might be a little high for him. Robert Saleh is a defensive mind, and I think that with the edge rushers that they've picked up in the offseason, this is where it would actually make sense to take Arvell Reese and let him develop.
And you also have that versatility to where if even though it's not an immediate need, next year you got some guys coming off the books at edge rusher. You can start him just like Micah Parsons did, play at middle linebacker this year where they do have an immediate need, and then you can rotate him as a rotational pass rusher this year. And then if he wants to develop and has the ability to develop into that full-time role on the outside, I think that's where you go. If they trade back, I think if Tennessee trades back, you're probably looking at one of the wide receivers, whichever one is available between Tate and Tyson. If we do see that trade back a few spots, I think that would provide the best value, assuming that Love is not still available. If they trade back with New Orleans or a team further back than that, or if Kansas City wants to move up to the spot, I don't think that Styles or Love, I think both those guys will be off the board by 7. Whichever one of those guys is still available, I think Washington takes at 7. The other intriguing aspect here is, where does Dallas come in? This is maybe the most heated rumor right now going on anywhere, is this whole George Pickens stuff. That the fact that they came out yesterday and said it's not a priority for them to extend him to a long-term deal because they're already paying one receiver, and that their intention is for him to play on the franchise tag this year. And there is no indication that George Pickens wants to do that. So we could see a wild scenario. I mean, there's even some people floating out the idea that George Pickens could be on the move as early as tonight. I don't think that happens. I think there's a lot of negotiables that have to work out because of the fact he hasn't signed that franchise tag. All that has to be agreed to. So I don't think he actually gets moved tonight. But that doesn't preclude Dallas from taking a wide receiver. They have done a lot of research on Jordyn Tyson. What happens if they want to get ahead of New York, who we've already reported at this past week that the Giants are in on Jordyn Tyson and could take him as early as number 5 overall. So does Dallas consider a move here at 4 to get ahead of their division rival to get Tyson? Corey?
I think that if they're going to move up that high, then they're probably there to take somebody like Sonny Styles, because that defense needs a lot of help. Not just help, they need a lot of help. And I think that they would still be able to get a premier wide receiver if they wanted to wait until 20. They're going to have options there with possibly Omar Cooper Jr. Maybe if they like Casey Concepcion that much. So I think that receiver is one of those things that they could probably wait on. If they're moving up that high, I got to believe it's for a defensive player.
Nathan, your thoughts? Do you think Tyson could go this high? I know that he's your number one receiver in this class. What are your thoughts? Do you think Dallas pulls the trigger here? Do you think he's an option for the Giants at 5?
I don't think he'll go top 5. I don't know if he goes top 10. He might go to the Saints, but other than that, maybe the Dolphins. I don't know, but I don't see them going receiver as the Cowboys at all. I mean, you have CeeDee Lamb, you have Pickens. You know, I don't see a world where Pickens isn't with the Cowboys next year. I could see him finishing his career with Dallas. It's way too early to tell, but I just don't see them drafting a receiver in the first.
I mean, you just have too many needs there on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, it's so pressing with pass rusher and corner. I mean, there's so many other options there for him. I don't know that you can really afford to take that. But then again, if Pickens isn't going to play, I mean, Dallas is historically bad at handling these type of contracts and these type of situations. We saw it play out with Micah Parsons. The same thing could happen here with George Pickens. Some of the most talented players they're going to let walk out the door because of mismanagement of their salary cap and just it's Dallas, America's team, right? So
as long as Jerry Jones is still the GM there, it's going to be a mess.
Yes. Let's move on here. So I think with the Giants at 5, I don't know which it goes, Downs or Tyson, but I feel like there's a strong opportunity that it could go either direction. They could take either one at 5. They could take the other one at 10. Because there's a strong belief that the Giants are going to use one of their picks on a wide receiver. You could argue offensive line. Maybe they go Maui Noah and then they take Caleb Downs. But they could take Caleb Downs here. We know that Kyle Hamilton was such a big part in John Harbaugh's defense in Baltimore. Maybe they want to get that playmaking safety and just secure him at 5. But the reason in my mock draft I had Tyson going 5 to the Giants instead of at 10 was because the teams in between them, there's not a strong need for safety. You could argue that the Saints could take a safety. You could argue that Washington could take a safety, but it's not the top need for either team where some of these other positions are. I don't think that Washington is taking Caleb Downs ahead of Sonny Styles if they have the option between both of them. I don't think that in between a receiver or corner or even Reuben Bain, I don't see them taking Caleb Downs ahead of them. It's possible, but you change it to wide receiver. The Browns could, if they fall in love with Jordyn Tyson, they could take him at 6. You have at number 7, Washington. They need wide receiver. They could take him. New Orleans, Kansas City. They could take a receiver or even Kenyon Sadiq. They could pull that at 9. So every team picking in between 5 and 10 needs a wide receiver. There's a much higher likelihood that Downs is available at 10. I think the only thing you're worrying about with Downs is Dallas jumping you, maybe moving up to 9 with Kansas City, and they make the jump up there for Caleb Downs. That's why I think if you're sold on Tyson, you take Tyson at 5, even though it's kind of blowing our minds like, oh, all of a sudden he went from being a late first-round pick to now all of a sudden, oh, man, he's not going to escape the first 6 picks of the draft. I think you take him because of the demand for wide receivers is so much more. Do either of you have any thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Nate.
No, you go ahead.
So I'm thinking, I can't disagree with the thinking. I think with with the Giants though, if they that would be the ceiling for me for Jeremiyah Love, because there's already been talk about in plenty of mocks with Jeremiyah Love going at 5. They're still going to have opportunities with a receiver at 10, but if they do want Tyson, they're going to have to take him at 5 because, as you said, Andrew, he would start flying. Somebody's going to jump up to get him if he's still on the board. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that workout video that he came out with, he looks good. I mean, there's no doubt about the fact that he's a great receiver. The big question with him has always been the medicals. Is he going to stay healthy? And when he was getting mocked to the Steelers at times, I had to shake my head at it because I have recency bias, just because we have a guy on the Steelers and, with the cornerback room, Corey Trice Jr., who has been nothing but an injury-plagued star and can't get on the field. And that scares me, thinking about Jordyn Tyson in that same mold. And it's for me, if I'm looking at it as from an NFL GM's perspective, he would fall down the board because of that injury history. But since he looks like he's cleaned that up, quote unquote, you got to take him early because the potential with this guy, holy moly, the potential with this guy is out of
Yeah.
this world.
It is 100%. We do have someone who's, I believe, going to be putting something in the live chat here in a minute. We got a question coming in regarding Philly and potentially moving up. We're going to get into that as well because there's some intriguing rumors surrounding that whole situation as well. But as we kind of finish out the top 10, Washington, if Love or Styles are there, I imagine whichever one of them is there, that's the pick, assuming one of them is available. Would you guys both agree?
Which one do you take is the question.
Well, see, I don't think both of them are available. Like, to me, like, obviously, if Love's there, I think they're taking him because the need is so dire there, and they need to get something to take the pressure off. They need something to take the pressure off of Jaden Daniels. So this is the one team that I could justify taking a running back this early because you've got to keep Daniels healthy, and having an explosive running back will help so much in those RPOs. It will allow Daniels to do a lot more with his legs and be deceptive in that way. So I think you would take him there if you have the option. As good as a player as Styles is, you can get some really good inside linebacker still in round 2, like we talked about. Jacob Rodriguez, CJ Allen could still be there. Some of these other guys, it's a deep inside linebacker draft. So I think in this scenario, you would actually take Love. Nathan, do you have any thoughts on that?
I actually think they go Caleb Downs there. I think Downs will kind of slide down there.
Okay. So you're
it's
saying
a little far, but
so you're saying if Downs is there at 7, that he would actually be the pick?
yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. You can't rule it out. They did bring him in for a visit, I believe, and they were at his pro day. They've shown some interest in Downs. I think that there's a high probability that they select an Ohio State player. It could be those. It could also be Carnell Tate. So I think chances are probably about 60% chance that they draft an Ohio State player there with that pick. So the odds are looking pretty good. With all the buzz surrounding Jeremiyah Love and a team trading up, I really don't think he makes it to 7. I don't think Washington will trade up either to go and get him. I think they take Styles here at 7, but Ohio State player for sure. We already talked about the Saints at 9, Kansas City. Is there any scenario where Kenyon Sadiq is the pick and they get him? We're talking about these receivers. Let's say Tyson Tate are off the board. And they don't, yes, they need offensive line help. Maui Noah is still available in this scenario. We haven't talked about Maui Noah at all. He could still be on the board. They could have their choice of offensive lineman. I heard they really like Caden Proctor. They could take him here as well. They also have done a lot of work on Ruben Bain. I mocked Ruben Bain to them in my mock draft, but here's my one concern, Corey. Steve Spagnuolo's defensive ends that he has always had have always been these longer defensive ends with, these longer body types. That's not Ruben Bain.
No, that's not. No, and I'll be honest with you. I think if the Chiefs are picking there and they stay put, they could possibly move up for Jeremiyah Love to give Patrick Mahomes a weapon, and still possibly even get Sadiq later on in the first round if they want to move up from their later pick. So they could possibly move up twice in the first round to get those guys that they need to fill out that roster on the offensive side of the ball. Now, to the defense, I would be more inclined if I'm KC to pick a corner, especially because they got rid of both of their starters from last year to the Rams. The Rams and the Chiefs basically swapped, or the Chiefs swapped both of their corners to the Rams this offseason. So they're going to need some cornerback help, and this is where I could possibly see them taking Mansour Delane. Colton Hood would probably be a little high here, but definitely Mansour Delane would be in this range to go there.
Delane would be an intriguing pick. They've got to add some more weaponry in the secondary. After losing Trent McDuffie, and some people's comparisons for Delane is Trent McDuffie. So I think that's an interesting comparison here. I would say the ceiling for him would be 7 to Washington. I know that they like him, but I don't think they would take him at 7. I think that'd be if they were to trade out. I know that Washington has been listening to calls, so I think that would be what would happen. Washington would probably take a lesser offer to move back if both Styles and Love happen to be gone, rather than taking a receiver there. And then they move back, maybe try to take Delane. I think the floor for Delane would be 12 to Dallas, and that's what I had in the mock draft. Nathan, for the Chiefs, weaponry for Mahomes, I know they need offensive line help. They need pass rusher. They need corner. Is there any world? I'm just to me, with Travis Kelce where he's at, Sadiq is a freak of nature. Do you think there's any chance they could take Sadiq? What would your thoughts be if they actually took him compared to maybe one of these wide receivers that could still be available?
I like it. Travis Kelce is going to be gone in a couple of years. He's the perfect replacement for him. He's not he's a receiver though. Like he's not just a tight end. He is a receiver like Travis Kelce was. So it just makes sense. But I actually think the Rams would be a perfect spot for Sadiq as well, because if you look, their starting tight end right now is Colby Parkinson, and then their backup is a 33-year-old Tyler Higbee. So I could see him go to the Rams or the Chiefs. One of those two teams just makes sense.
You've actually started to see some of them. I'm glad you mentioned the Rams because there's something weird going on about that pick. None of the receivers that could be available for them profile to be Rams-type receivers. You see Mekhi Lemon mocked them. Mekhi Lemon is not the type of receiver that the Rams typically go after. They typically don't draft receivers in the first round either. They've proven that they can find some guys later in the draft. So I think if they were to go a weapon, Sadiq would make more sense. And they drafted Terrence Ferguson last year, another Oregon tight end, so they would reunite together. They just have the Oregon tight end room pretty much at that point. And I think that there's something unique going on about the Rams. They've been very mums about the pick, which is why I kind of went against my gut feeling. My initial gut feeling was Arizona trades back into the first to get Simpson. My gut feeling this time was that maybe they would go and get Sadiq here. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I didn't mock it, but I think it's a possibility. I think the ceiling would be Kansas City for Sadiq. I think the floor, though, is Philly. But we do have some that just put in the live chat. So Stephen Poor just put, I believe Philly will trade with Tampa to get ahead of Detroit to grab their Lane Johnson replacement. I've been hearing this as well. I originally had that in my mock draft. I took it out just because it didn't really adjust the players that I was giving to anybody. But I'm tempted to just slide it back in here. The reason that I switched those two originally was that there's one caveat with with doing this trade. It's that it doesn't affect Detroit's pick because they like Monroe Freeling, but they also like Keldrick Falk. So I was debating, who do I give here? What pick do I make here? My gut feeling said that they would take Falk over Freeling, but they would take Proctor over Falk. So to make all the pieces fit, I took the trade out. I just had the Bucks sticking at 15, taking Mesidor, and I had Philly staying at 23 and taking Freeling. I had Freeling falling to them. I don't think they have all these guys graded similarly, Corey. I would think that there's probably one of these guys they have a definite favor of, and if they have one of those guys, whether that be Proctor or Freeling, I would think maybe they actually go up and snag him.
If they're falling in love with either one of those tackles, I wouldn't necessarily think that they have to, but they definitely could. And with the way that we've been going through these picks so far, it sounds like the tackles are actually going to slide down the board. Does Mauioga sliding down the board move everybody else down the board? Would Philly have to move up to get one of those tackles?
And the Ravens control a lot too in this whole scenario because the Ravens, like if they take an offensive lineman, let's say, of course, in my mock draft, we'll get to the Steelers in a minute because we're all Steelers fans. But if the Steelers take an offensive line, if they move up to get one, to secure one, maybe get ahead of Baltimore, get ahead of one of these other teams, get ahead of the Lions, maybe they're a team that moves with Tampa Bay. They're going to be one of those teams that's in there. Baltimore, what if they go offensive lineman instead of Sadiq? Minnesota needs offensive line help. So, we could see the run go further. I think there will still be a tackle there, even if that's Blake Miller or Maxi Onachor. I think one of those guys will still potentially be there at 23 for Philly. But if there's one you like better than the rest, you got to go up and get them. I've heard a lot of buzz about Proctor, and they really like Proctor. If Lane Johnson is, of course, right tackle, Proctor played on the left side mostly in college. That's the other thing that gives me some hesitation. I think that the guys that can move a little bit easier to the right side would be a Freeling, would be obviously Blake Miller already played on the right side. Maxi Onachor, I think, would be a home run pick for him. I love Onachor. That's where I kind of stand with this right now. And I'm debating. I'm still tempted to go into our website right now and project this trade again because I think there's a strong possibility it is. And he's right. Howie's traded up 4 of the last 5 years. So I think that happens again. Nathan, do you think the Eagles are a team that makes a move? Do you see them addressing another position, or do you think it's set in stone that they're going tackle?
Yeah, I see them going tackle. I could see them trading up to go tackle, but I think they'll go tackle either way.
Tampa's the ideal spot, right? Because the all rumors say that they want edge rusher, and their preference would be Akeem Mesidor. Mesidor, you don't have to take it 15, in my opinion. Like, I like him. I think he's a great player, but he's 25 years old. Because of that age, he's going to trickle down the board. I think the first team that really considers him is probably Chicago at 25. Maybe, just maybe, LA considers it. But I think they go offensive line as well with all their needs they have up front. They've got to fix that first. But 22 is the earliest you get. So really the only risk you have is the Chargers ahead of you. There's no other team that's going to be taking Mesidor, as far as I'm aware, if you make this trade back. So you can maneuver up and down the board there. I think it's an interesting topic of conversation because Tampa Bay, it doesn't really affect them. I'm giving them Mesidor either way, whether it's at 15 or at 23. For Tampa Bay, do you see anything else, Corey, for them?
If the Eagles really like Sadiq, I could see them possibly moving up to get him. And that would provide them with a really dynamic playmaker for Jalen Hurts in that offense.
Yeah, I think that with Dallas Goedert, the whole situation there, that makes a lot of sense too. I think Carolina's another team to keep an eye on with Sadiq. I even heard don't even rule out Minnesota. That would be an interesting pick. Going back to the Oregon well there and getting another guy from Oregon. They've missed on a lot of first-round picks recently, so they need to hit on whatever they do here. I think they go defense, but if they wanted to go tight end, you pair them in two tight end sets. We know that Kevin O'Connell likes running those things, but he hasn't had two tight ends to actually run it with. So that'd be an interesting scenario. That'd be kind of a wild card pick. I had Colton Hood, which was a wild card in and of itself. What are the Jets doing? Nathan, the Jets, they have needs all over the board. The offensive line's pretty safe. They've taken care of that. Receiver, defensive back, like do you think Thieneman goes here? Colton Hood, Jermod McCoy? Do you think they go wide receiver and just take – when we haven't talked about Mekhi Lemon, he's still on the board in our scenario. Do you think they go Lemon here?
I see them going receiver. Denzel Boston, maybe. I don't know. He could be a decent fit.
Tony Pauline, which I used to be a huge fan of. The last couple of years, his analysis has been a little bit more off, not quite as accurate. But he did say that the Jets only have 3 receivers with first-round grades, and that was Tate, Tyson, and Boston. So that would be interesting. I am a big Mekhi Lemon fan. He is Amon-Ra. He's Amon-Ra St. Brown 2.0 in my opinion. He runs routes the same way. Amon-Ra might be a little bit better separator, but I think Lemon does a better job bringing the ball into his body in traffic. So I think those two kind of balance each other out. Lemon is an electric playmaker, absolutely electric. And I know that he didn't interview well at the Combine, but, I mean, we heard, I believe it was Andy Weidel or Omar Khan talking in their presser the other day about when they brought him in for a visit, and they blew him away, in the way that in his maturity. So I don't think that's a big deal. It's a nothing burger in my eyes. I think that they could go receiver. Omar Cooper Jr. is another guy they've been linked to a lot, but I think receiver makes the most sense for them. Any chance they take Thieneman, Corey?
There's a chance. I mean, there's always a chance. I'm trying to think of who else that would really fit here, because as much as I think that they want to take Ty Simpson, they're probably going to wait till 33 to do that, with the first pick in the second round, knowing that there's a lot of other people who probably aren't going to be looking at Ty Simpson until late first round. And there's really nobody at the back end of the first round that needs to take a quarterback. So do the Jets take him at 16? That's really an interesting question as well.
John S. says he loves Lemon as well. Thank you, John, for putting that in the live chat. We appreciate it. If any of you out there have any other questions, any draft questions you want to ask us, let us know. We're going to be going here for until about 6:15 Eastern time, and then we'll be jumping off for a while, and then we might start a separate stream tonight as well during the draft for part of it. I know Corey's going to be at the draft party. We might see if we can find a couple guests that want to pop in and just discuss some draft, just have a good time talking some NFL draft. I think if you want a wild card, you want to know like a real wild card. If the Jets just completely jetted the draft and just totally blew our minds with stupidity, a pick that I could actually see happening in a wild scenario. I'll give you 2 names: Colton Hood and Traden Stukes. Could you imagine what would happen if Trayden Stukes was taken at 16th overall?
Yeah, that's awfully high. But I mean, if they really, yeah, that's just awfully high. That's a Jets move.
It would be so much a Jets move. But look, they with no interceptions last year, they're going to find guys that have those ball skills. Stukes had 4 picks last year. I could see a scenario where they drafted Stukes here, and in the second round, they might reach for a Bud Clark, a guy who had 5 picks last year. Like getting guys who have that ball production to be able to create some turnovers in the secondary. Of course, if they get that pass rusher early on, that will also help. Without having much pass rush last year, I think that was maybe the biggest reason why they didn't have any picks because the quarterbacks were just so comfortable in the pocket. But John does have a question we want to get to. What's this about Carson Beck soaring? There have been some rumors coming up. He mentioned up to the second round. There have been some talks about Carson Beck rising with the arm strength, with the season that he had. Nathan, I'll get your thoughts on this because I haven't talked to you about Carson Beck a whole lot. You know that I'm not the biggest fan of Beck personally. What are your thoughts on Beck? We're as Steelers fans, this is the guy that's been linked to the Steelers in the third, fourth round if he's there. What if he goes in the second round? What team could actually take him in the second round? Like, do you actually see a scenario where he goes this high?
I guess I can see a world. I don't. Maybe the Eagles. That's kind of way too early, though. I think just for a backup. I don't know.
If he was there in the fourth round, I could see him as an option for Philly.
Yeah, I just don't see anyone in the second round, though. I can kind of see it though, but
the only team I'd throw out there as a wild card would be Miami, and I would hate it because I'm a diehard Malik Willis fan. But because they only paid him $20 million, just $23 million, whatever, very minimal contract for a quarterback. They're not financially strapped for years to come with quarterback. They could easily take a quarterback here. And I mean, I would definitely blink an eye and I would be ticked off if that actually happened, but it is a possibility. It could actually happen. I know that they've been doing a lot of evaluations on these day 2, day 3 quarterbacks. So I wouldn't rule that out necessarily, but if I'm betting on it, I think that Beck is still going to end up being a late third, probably fourth round pick. That's just where I'm at. We've seen several years in a row where after that early rush goes of quarterbacks, after those guys that everyone believes in as a franchise quarterback, late first, early second, then you kind of see that drop off for a while. And sometimes you're waiting, sometimes until day 3, and then you see that run start again on quarterbacks. And we kind of saw that a little bit last year as well. So I wouldn't be shocked if we see that again here. If I were to ask you guys who the first quarterback is that doesn't go in the first round, you could throw Ty Simpson in there if you don't think he goes first round. Who is the first quarterback to come off the board on day 2?
Ty Simpson.
I got to believe it's Ty Simpson's going to go on day 2. Okay. And then I have to believe that Drew Aller is actually going to find his way onto day 2 somewhere. The height, the arm strength, somebody's going to take a chance on that. Even though he didn't play well his senior year, the issues that he's got with his footwork are fixable for a quarterback whisperer, and I got to believe that somebody's going to take a chance on him somewhere, at least one round higher than he probably should go.
Well, someone upset the apple cart here. Philly taking quarterback in the second round. I'll stop watching football if that happens. Yeah,
it would be stupid.
We're gonna move on from that one. I would love to see what Carson Beck would be like in a room. I know that AJ Brown is going to be most likely departing off to New England. I would love to see a scenario in which Carson Beck, knowing how he loves to throw quarterbacks under the bus, having something like that happening, where you had just this random team like Philly in the second round, just totally throws everything off. I don't think that happens in the second. I think fourth would be where they would first start looking at quarterback. But getting back to some of these rumors real quick, just talking about some of these things. We had already mentioned that weird Jeremiyah Love rumor to the Saints. And, I've got to plug this in real quick. Corey, I'm going to ask you, as we get into these next picks here with Minnesota, Carolina, some of these teams that need secondary help, where does Thieneman go? Do we see Colton Hood or Chris Johnson come off the board a little bit earlier than expected? What do you see happening here in this range here with 17, 18, 19?
I think the best pairing of player to team besides, let's say, Kenyon Sadiq to the Chiefs would actually be Dylan Thieneman to Minnesota. He would be a perfect Harrison Smith replacement. And I've got to believe that that's the position they're looking at if they don't go with with a receiver even. With the Panthers, I've got to believe that they're looking for an offensive lineman, and this is the situation where you could see Proctor go. This is the situation where you could see Awanye go. This is the situation where the Panthers really need to bulk up that line to give Bryce Young some more help to keep him clean, because he did start to develop last year. You did see Bryce Young start to take some steps last year in that Dave Canales offense, and I think that if they continue to help him by getting him more protection, he could continue to progress. At 20, do you see Dallas also take a lineman, or do you think that they continue to work on that defense? Interested to know what you think, Nathan.
I can see him going defense twice in the first round. That wouldn't surprise me.
So we did get some here in the live chat, and we'll see if we can pull this up and confirm it. Maybe, Nathan, if you have a way if you want to just look this up and see. So apparently Adam Schefter alert saying that Pickens just signed his franchise tag. So that is really interesting. Does that mean that he's just happened to sign it now, or does it mean that he signed it so that he could be traded tonight? That changes everything here. I'm not going to go back and update the mock draft, but to me, Corey, that screams that there's a legit shot George Pickens could actually get moved tonight now, because that's the one thing that was kind of in the way of this happening. I know he signed the franchise tag, but this could very well be, okay, they have a plan in place to be able to move on from him tonight. Corey, your thoughts? I think we might have lost Corey's audio for just a minute. Oh, hang on for a second. But Dallas with that pick, assuming that they're still where they're at pick 20, I think they're a trade down option, actually. I've been hearing a lot so this is a good rumor for Dallas. We talked about the potential for Tyson early on. I'm hearing that the Dallas Cowboys are absolutely in love with Malachi Lawrence, edge rusher from UCF. So if you're talking about one of those picks that we're not consistently mocking in the first round, I think this is one spot where maybe you could see that shocker first round pick that we're not necessarily expecting tonight. I think there's a chance where that could actually happen at pick 20, maybe on a trade back option. You have Dallas there, maybe a team like Houston moving up to get that tackle if the tackle run comes at that point. I think that's where we see some interesting movement. Nate, your thoughts?
Yeah. I can see them doing that. Yeah.
I think that when you look at here, so going back to the quarterback conversation, John S. Says, I want Klubnik. Now, I'm curious, John, who your team is. Let us know who your team is that you're looking for here. Love the Purdy comparison in terms of style. There are some comparisons in the way that he navigates the pocket and the way that he goes through his progressions. Klubnik is a very smart quarterback, very well-experienced quarterback, not the biggest arm in the world, but just a technician. And okay, so he is a Steelers fan. So I wouldn't hate that of the day three quarterbacks. I would rather that than Carson Beck, and you can probably get him at a cheaper price too. Klubnik, I think he is probably more in that fifth round range. I could be wrong on that, but that's going to be an interesting one there. The Steelers are definitely going to be making a move at quarterback at some point. It's just a matter of exactly when. So that's intriguing here. Let's get to a couple of these other rumors. The Steelers, Nathan, pick 21. What's going on here? Are the Steelers moving up? Do they go up to secure an Awanye or Fano? Do they secure that offensive lineman? We know the Steelers like Mekhi Lemon. Do they move up for him? What do you think the Steelers do tonight?
So it's not going to be Ty Simpson. That's a definite.
I agree with that. I think we can put to sleep any rumors. If you're out there watching and just wondering, what's going on here, I do not think that the Steelers are going to draft Ty Simpson. I think they've made it very clear what they're looking at the quarterback position, and he does not meet that criteria.
Looking at the guard from Penn State, I think that's our main option. I don't see a world where go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say the question is where do you have to be in order to go up and get him, right? And Corey will bring you back in on this one. The Steelers, being the hometown team, you got to think that they're probably going to try to make a splash move here. You got to think that they're going to do something, whether that be moving back up into the first round again for a second first round pick, or maybe trading back to stockpile more picks to where they can really move up into that back into the first again? Or do you trade up here, knowing that Baltimore has a need on the offensive line? If they're sold on Awanye, Pennsylvania guy, you've got the somewhat local connection. Do the Steelers go for that? To me, that's what made the most sense for my mock. That's why I did it. The Rams, with not any dire need there, maybe they move back knowing that if they are going to take Simpson, they're not going to take him at 13. So why not just, trade back and take him there? That was my logic behind it. But I'm curious your thoughts, Corey, as well. Like Nathan mentioned Awanye. I think he'd be the ideal pick for the Steelers. Obviously, if he falls to 21, that's a home run situation. Do you think the Steelers will try to move up to get ahead of Baltimore?
In the latest mock draft that I had posted to Steel Curtain Network, that was exactly the scenario that I ran by everybody. I had them actually moving up to 12 with Dallas to get him. Awanye is that one guy who you could totally move up for, especially because he has zero character issues. He has had no injury history. He is a plug-and-play player at a position of need. And as I was saying on the Fix the other day, he would present to you like there are other draft pundits who are saying that this guy's a perennial Pro Bowler before he's even taken a snap. He is probably one of the most sure players in the first round. If any team were to take him. So is Awanye that good? Would you move up for him? Absolutely. If you sit at 21 and you're able to get him, holy moly, I wouldn't even care how the rest of this draft went, to be honest with you, knowing that they still have 11 other picks to go, because I think Awanye is that much of a home run pick for the Steelers. To move back, what would they do if they moved back? What would the Steelers do if someone offered to move up to 21? You'd have to think that they're probably looking at receiver at that point, with either Casey Concepcion or Denzel Boston. And then they could address the guard position, most likely in the second round, where they would have to move up to get a guy. Because if you're not grabbing Awanye in the first round, the run on the guard position in the second round is going to happen early if it doesn't happen in the late first round. So do they move up in the second round to grab a Emmanuel Pregnon, to grab possibly Jennings Dunker, or they've got to address that guard position early second round if they definitely don't do it in the first.
To me, Pregnon, based on the type of running scheme they're trying to build in Pittsburgh, I don't think Pregnon makes schematic sense for the Steelers. I think that of the other guys, I think Bazantis, Rutledge, Dunker, all those guys would make more sense based on the identity the Steelers are trying to build along the defensive front. I could be wrong on that. But I just have never seen Pregnon as a great fit for the Steelers. That's just me. But as we move on, let's play out a scenario, because we all think that if Awanye is there, he's the pick, and there's the chance that the Steelers could move up. Do we all agree with that? That if the Steelers are sold on him, they would at least consider moving up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to agree with that. Yeah.
Okay, so we're all in agreement with that, and maybe they throw a wild card, and it's Spencer Fano, the guy they actually move up for, which, to be quite honest, I wouldn't hate either. Spencer Fano would be a really good guard at the next level. You move him from tackle to guard, there's a lot of upside there. But based on grades, I mean, I've been doing player grades since 2016, and so this is my 11th year doing that. So yeah, the first time I did, I was 13 years old when I first started doing draft analysis, and I think that outside of Quentin Nelson, Awanye might be the best guard, cleanest guard prospect that I've evaluated other than Quentin Nelson coming out since I started doing this. So I think he's a safe pick, and the upside is there as well. You're talking about potential Hall of Fame type guy with the type of potential that he has. Second round, let's say they get that addressed. If the Steelers stay at 21, am I foolish to think that the Steelers with 11 more picks are not going to try to move back up into the first round with the draft being in Pittsburgh, giving the fans something to cheer for? They're not going to keep all 11 picks. We know that. At some point, they're going to move up. Whether that's in the second, the third, wherever, that's fine. Do you think that if a certain player falls, the Steelers will certainly entertain moving back into the first round tonight for a second first? Nathan?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Corey?
It just depends on the position that is falling due to the other runs that are happening at position groups. If they see that the receivers are falling down the board because the tackle position is getting run on, if those other defensive players are getting a run on, and it pushes, one of the other, it's got to be the receiver position that I would think that they would want to move down for. Now, there is a possibility also that, like you were saying before, Andrew, that guard position, the second run of the guard position could end up being at the back end of the first round for any of the other ones, like Rutledge or I can't really see Dunker going in the first, but I mean, who knows? The Steelers could possibly reach there. That would create quite the stir in itself. But I would have to think that it's for the receiver position, for a Casey Concepcion, for a Denzel Boston.
I would tend to agree with that as well. Go ahead, Nathan.
I was just agreeing.
Okay, I'd agree with that as well. I think secondary might just have to be put on back burner. Unless Thienemann's the guy that falls to 21, the Steelers just absolutely fall in love with him. I think that's an option. I don't think EMW is going to be the pick anymore. I think he's starting to fall. I think there's a scenario in which Stukes goes ahead of him, actually, which I wouldn't fully agree with, but I'd understand why. Let's move to some of these other teams in the first round before we get on out of here. We'll go for about 5 minutes longer, and then we'll give this a wrap. But make sure you come back in. If you're watching now, make sure you check back out tonight. Once the first round gets going, we're going to start another stream going up. I don't know what your plans are, Nathan, but you're welcome to hop back on for that. And we'll have a couple other guests potentially hopping on in as well. And make sure you also check out on the Steel Curtain Network. Corey is going to be at the SCN draft party in Hagerstown. They're going to have live coverage from there. You will not want to miss any of that. Jeff Hartman will be there. All the big guys from the Steel Curtain Network and Fans for Sports Network will be there. So make sure you go and check that out as well. Anything else that pops out in these last 10 to 12 picks as something noteworthy? We mentioned Arizona moving up. I think Seattle would want to move back out of the first round with only 4 picks. You've got a couple teams that could be willing to move up. San Francisco with a receiver. I think we see the tackles and receivers run here. What other things should we be watching for in the back end of the first, Corey?
For possibly the Jets or the Browns to move up into the first, even though they've got 2 picks apiece there. If the Jets really value Ty Simpson's 5th year and they want him that bad, then you could possibly see them moving up to 30, 31, 32.
There we go. That makes sense. Nathan, anything else that you see in the back end that can maybe a shocker, something that's maybe a surprise to you?
No, not really. I'd have to say that I never thought about the Jets or the Browns having 3 picks in the first round, but that does make sense that they're trying to go after Ty. But
I will say that if Cooper or Boston starts to fall, I think that if Dallas were to go secondary with that second pick, they would trade up into the first to get the receiver that they want because they have enough ammo to actually do that. So I think that'd be something to watch. Any other thoughts as we kind of close this on out, Corey? I'm also going to give you a chance to plug anything that you want to plug for Steel Curtain Network.
Yeah, it does make sense for the Jets to make a splash. Aaron Glenn's got to do something to keep his job this year. So moving up into the first round to grab a whole bunch of talent makes a ton of sense. Jets having 3 first round this year. Not only that, they've already got 3 first rounds next year. So even if Aaron Glenn doesn't keep his job, that new coach is going to have a lot of ammo. So in terms of writing on the Steel Curtain Network, I'm going to have mock drafts coming out for day 2 and day 3. So look for both of those in the next 2 days that come out that are going to come out early in the morning to give you some more ammo and some more thoughts to think about as the draft rolls on.
And make sure you check out my mock draft 5.0 live on steelcurtainnetwork.com. You can check that out right now, as well as my top 200 players big board. I also have a printable version of that if you want to follow along during the draft, which I always enjoy having something just to follow along and see what the top players are available in physical copies. So you can have that as well. You can just click the link inside the article for that. Make sure you check out the Steel Curtain Network's feed tonight for the live draft party from Hagerstown, Maryland. And, of course, we will also have this over here. I'll have some buddies come on, and we'll be discussing the draft throughout the first round tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you later tonight. Thank you so much. Make sure you check out steelcurtainnetwork.com for the latest news and headlines surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers, and check out FFSN.com for all things NFL. We'll see you later.
Go Steelers.